Welcome back to the cryptoworld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is running into the final level of resistance before breaking out to new all-time highs, as the Bitcoin price is now playing out this bullish flag pattern in the short term, while the Bitcoin ETFs are pumping hundreds of millions of dollars into Bitcoin each weekday, alongside other Bitcoin whales, which I'll talk about in just a moment, while Ethereum is also about to run into the final significant area of resistance before then breaking to new all-time highs. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, taking a look at the Bitcoin news today, because just yesterday, MicroStrategy just announced that they bought another 3,000 Bitcoin worth approximately 150 million US dollars at the time of their purchase. And so as of right now, MicroStrategy, which is of course Michael Saylor's company, holds nearly 200,000 Bitcoin. Right now, they're holding around 193,000 Bitcoin under MicroStrategy. And so with the Bitcoin ETFs taking the spotlight at the moment, of course, we still need to remember companies like MicroStrategy are still buying a lot of Bitcoin whenever they can. And remember, this is just one company buying Bitcoin and is still adding to a significant amount of the Bitcoin that's being bought off the market, because we have to remember Bitcoin is an extremely scarce resource. And so with big players like this buying a significant chunk of Bitcoin, of course, this could lead to a quick supply squeeze, squeezing the price a lot higher. And especially when you add in the fact that the Bitcoin ETFs are buying more and more Bitcoin. Just yesterday, we had another massive net inflow into the Bitcoin ETFs, because as I shared here over on my Twitter, link down below in the description and in the pinned comments, just yesterday, just on the 26th of February, we saw a net inflow into the Bitcoin ETFs of around 520 million US dollars. And remember, this is a net inflow, so this is actually factoring in the outflows from Grayscale, which by the way, was the smallest outflow that we have seen yet from when the ETFs actually launched. Because of course, if you've been following this channel for a while, you'll know that we've been seeing a significant amount of outflows coming out of Grayscale due to a number of reasons. And so far, since the ETFs actually launched and began trading, the largest Grayscale outflow in a single day was around $640 million flowing out of Grayscale in just one day. And their average outflow since the ETFs began trading was around $240 million flowing out of Grayscale each day. And so remember, to put that into perspective, just yesterday, we only saw around $22 million flow out of Grayscale, which compared to over $240 million as their average outflow, 22 million is tiny. And if we're looking at the other Bitcoin ETFs, like for example, BlackRock, which is IBIT, they bought over $100 million worth of Bitcoin just yesterday. Fidelity bought nearly $250 million worth of Bitcoin just yesterday. The ARK ETF bought over $100 million worth of Bitcoin just yesterday. And so once again, all of this adds up to a net inflow of around 520 million US dollars flowing into the Bitcoin ETFs just yesterday. And in case you're new to all of this, how these spot Bitcoin ETFs actually work is essentially that $520 million that flowed into the spot Bitcoin ETFs. That is money that's buying the ETF shares. And then essentially that money is going to the ETF providers like BlackRock, Fidelity, etc. And then those providers are having to actually buy spot Bitcoin, buy actual Bitcoin off the spot market to back their ETFs, which gives the ETFs value. And so essentially when we're seeing inflows, you can think of that as buying pressure, money that's going to buy Bitcoin. And when we're seeing outflows, we can think of that as selling Bitcoin, or money that's going to be coming out of Bitcoin. And so once again, just recently, we saw MicroStrategy buy another approximately $150 million worth of Bitcoin, while the ETFs just yesterday, just in one single day, bought over $500 million worth of Bitcoin. And so obviously it's no surprise as to why we saw a major pump in the price of Bitcoin, which is something that I've been talking about recently. Of course, over the weekend, I said that we're most likely going to see a bit of a short-term cool-off. And then I've been saying as soon as we see the stock market open back up again and the ETFs begin trading again, we could end up seeing the next major move depending on the inflows and outflows. And so for as long as we're seeing significant inflows like this, like for example, over $500 million of net inflows every single weekday, of course, this is going to pump the price of Bitcoin much higher. And I actually tweeted out yesterday that the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF was trading with a lot of buying volume, which I shared in real time over on my Twitter, because this chart right here is on the 1 hour time frame looking at the iShares Bitcoin Trust, IBIT, which is BlackRock's spot Bitcoin ETF. And if you're looking in this time period right here where Bitcoin was chopping around sideways, sideways, the volume was relatively low. We weren't really seeing a lot of trading volume, at least compared to over the last one day, because once again, as you can see right here, we saw a significant amount of buying volume coming into play in the BlackRock Spot Bitcoin ETF. And remember, if a lot of people are buying the BlackRock Spot Bitcoin ETF shares, the IBIT shares, that means that money is having to go into actual Bitcoin to buy Bitcoin to back the ETF. And so as always, I'll be keeping a close eye on the Bitcoin ETFs, and I'll keep you up to date every day here on the channel, especially when they're trading on weekdays and in real time over on my Twitter, link down below in the description and in the pinned comment. And so also make sure you subscribe to this channel with notifications turned on so that you don't miss out on any of these important update videos. But anyway, getting into some other Bitcoin charts today, looking at the weekly Bitcoin chart. And right now, as of recording this video, the price of Bitcoin is running into the final Fibonacci level of resistance before actually heading to the all-time high. And now, obviously, the Bitcoin price has already well and truly broken out above the golden pocket, which is the most important Fibonacci area on the chart. But with that being said, we still technically have this 78.6% Fibonacci level of resistance sitting at around 57 to 58K. So we could find some resistance at around 57 to 58K. But obviously, if we see much more inflows coming into the Bitcoin ETFs, of course, we could simply pump through that resistance. So that would depend on the inflows that we see today. But either way, when we eventually confirm a breakout above around 58,000 here on the weekly time frame, then the next major level of resistance is simply the all-time high sitting at around 69 to 70,000. And if we're actually measuring the current Bitcoin price at the time of recording this video at around 57K to the all-time high, we only need to see around a 20% pump in the price of Bitcoin to actually hit the all-time high. So we're actually getting a lot closer. And if we're measuring out the gain that we've seen just in February, just in this month alone, the Bitcoin price has already pumped over 30% to the upside just in this month so far. And so obviously with the price of Bitcoin pumping over 30% in less than a month, and with the price only needing a 20% pump to actually reach the all-time high, if this pace continues, we could see the price trading at all-time highs within a matter of weeks. And what's very interesting is the Bitcoin price usually breaks out above the all-time high, above its previous all-time high after the Bitcoin halving, and the next Bitcoin halving is in April. So we still have around 1.5 months to go until we get to the Bitcoin halving, but at this pace, the Bitcoin price could possibly hit the all-time high even before the halving. But either way, it's extremely likely that we're going to see new all-time highs this year. And so once again, as I've been saying here on the channel ever since the beginning of 2023, you can even go back on my channel and look at my videos back then, I've been extremely bullish on the price of Bitcoin on the larger timeframes in terms of the larger trend at play, like on the weekly chart, for example. I've been extremely bullish since then, non-stop, and I am still very bullish on the price of Bitcoin when we're talking about the larger trend at play on the larger timeframes. But obviously, during these larger bullish trends, we can see short-term pullbacks and short-term sideways consolidations during a bullish trend, but that does not necessarily change the larger trend that is playing out. And if we're taking a look at the daily Bitcoin chart, of course, right now the price is continuing with another leg to the upside. And right now we're actually crossing back in the bullish direction here in the daily Bitcoin MACD. And so perhaps we saw a false signal in the bearish direction here in the daily Bitcoin MACD just a few days ago. But either way, we still ended up seeing that sideways consolidation, basically a bit of a short-term cool-off for around a week or so. But of course, with the ETFs buying over $500 million worth of Bitcoin in a single day, of course, that's going to pump the price of Bitcoin to the upside. But overall, once again, as I've been saying, despite what's happening in the short term, if we're looking at the larger trend, we're still looking very bullish. And if we're zooming into a smaller time frame, looking at the 4-hour time frame, obviously over the last one day, we've finally seen a successful breakout above this short-term resistance, which was sitting at around 52,500. And as I've been saying here on the channel recently, while the price was in that price range right there, we're looking neutral. And then the moment we see a break of one of these levels, that is when we can flip much more bullish or much more bearish. Of course, if we broke below this support at around 50,500, of course, that would be the point where it would flip more bearish. But I said if we break out above 52,500, that is the point where we would flip much more bullish, which is clearly what has happened. And how we can trade these breakouts if we're in a sideways price range is simply place a conditional order either below support or above resistance or both. And so basically a conditional order automatically enters you into a trade if we see a break to the downside or break to the upside. Of course, if we're breaking to the downside, that would automatically enter a short position. Or if we're breaking out above key resistance, that conditional order would trigger and enter you into a long position if we're breaking out to the upside. And so that's why I pay attention to these support and resistance levels. And so either way, we can make money no matter what direction we break. And personally, I take trades just like that over on Bybit. So I'll make sure to leave a link to Bybit in the description down below and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link down below this video to make a Bybit account and deposit on that account, you can get up to a $30,000 deposit bonus, but only if you use that link down below this video. But for whatever reason, if you cannot access Bybit or if you cannot KYC on Bybit, there is also Bitflex, which is another crypto exchange similar to Bybit, but you don't need KYC for Bitflex. And also right now, there is an exclusive Apple Watch giveaway happening over at Bitflex, but only if you use the link down below this video. And so if you're trading crypto anyway, or if you're preparing to take the next trade, you might as well get set up ready to go on one of those exchanges using those links down below this video if you want to get those extra bonuses or enter that giveaway. But anyway, now that the price of Bitcoin has clearly broken out above that short-term resistance, of course, that activated this bullish flag pattern that I talked about in my last video. And as I said yesterday, if we break out above this resistance, which clearly we did, once we confirm that breakout above this resistance, that would set up at least this price target as an initial price target, sitting at around 54.7K, which obviously the price of Bitcoin hit and has gone a lot higher. And so even if you just took that trade right there in the price of Bitcoin from this breakout, even if you entered around 52,500 to that price target, that's still a pretty good trade, around a 4% move, or with a 10x leverage, that's a 40% profit. Or if you held that trade till now, that's around a 9% move with no leverage. Or just for example, a 10x leverage long position would be around a 90% profit. But I mentioned this price target as just an initial price target, more of a conservative price target. But if we're looking at a slightly larger price target for this bullish flag pattern, of course, we've already hit a slightly larger price target, which was sitting at around 56.7K. But if we're taking a look at the largest price target for this bull flag pattern, measuring out the flagpole, taking a look at that largest price target, that gives us a price target at around 62.4K approximately. And so basically from the point of the breakout to around 62,000, that's a possible 19 to 20% move to the upside, or even from where we are right now to that larger price target, that's still potentially around a 9% move to the upside. But obviously, it is worth considering the fact that we've already pumped in the short term. So of course, entering a new long position right up here compared to at the point of the breakout does come with a little bit more risk. And so you have to keep that in mind. If you're late to a trade, of course, there's going to be some more risk involved. But as always, I share these trading opportunities here on the channel basically every day and every week. And so if you missed this breakout trade right here, and let's just say if you don't want to enter right now, considering there's a slightly increased amount of risk entering right now, of course, do not worry. There's always more trading opportunities, which I share here on the channel, so make sure you subscribe. And obviously, you need an exchange to actually take those trades if you want to. And so once again, use those links down below this video to those exchanges if you want to get those extra bonuses, but only if you use those links down below this video, you can actually claim those bonuses. And obviously, with the price of Bitcoin pumping to the upside, breaking out from this bullish flag pattern, heading a lot higher in the short term, this has now clearly invalidated this short-term bearish divergence, which I talked about since all the way back here. And of course, that short-term bearish divergence mostly played out in the form of choppy sideways price action, which is one of the most common outcomes from a bearish divergence. But as I've said over the last 2 days now, I said that very soon we could see the invalidation of this bearish divergence, especially if we see a reversal and breakout here in the RSI, which we have now seen. And so obviously right now, at least in the short term, the RSI is still very overbought. But with that being said, we still have some bullish price targets to keep in mind. And of course, if we're still seeing significant inflows from the Bitcoin ETFs, this can continue to pump the price of Bitcoin a lot higher. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map over the last 1 day, we've obviously smashed through all of the liquidity to the upside. And so as of right now, just in the immediate short term, we don't really have a lot of liquidity to either direction just in the short term. And so right now, we just need to wait to see this chart actually mature over the coming days to give us more liquidity levels to pay attention to. And if we're taking a look at the ETH to US dollar chart on the weekly time frame, right now the price of ETH is about to run into the final significant area of resistance before potentially heading to all-time highs. Because right now, obviously, we've already broken out above that golden pocket, which I've talked about over the last few weeks, and that was a significant breakout, further confirming the larger bullish trend. But right now, we're just about to run into this 78.6% Fibonacci level of resistance, which is sitting just underneath 3.4K. And we also have this previous high right here sitting very close at around 3.5K, which should also act as resistance. So that gives us an area of resistance in between around 3.4 to 3.5K. And so just keep that in mind, at least in the shorter term here, we could find some resistance around that area, which means the price could struggle in that area. But once we finally see a confirmed breakout above around 3,500, then basically the next significant target on the larger timeframes is simply the all-time high, which is sitting at around 4.8 to 4.9K. And obviously, in terms of the larger trend at play on the weekly time frame, I'm still very bullish on the price of ETH, as I've been saying for a long time now. And if we're taking a look at the daily time frame, obviously over the last 1 to 2 days, with the Bitcoin pump to the upside, Ethereum has also pumped to the upside, which usually happens if Bitcoin pumps. Usually the overall crypto market flips bullish. And so obviously just recently we did see a bit of a short-term cool-off for around half a week or so, with the MACD telling us that we're losing a little bit of bullish momentum, at least in the short term. But what we are now seeing in the MACD is bullish momentum gaining again. We're actually gaining more bullish momentum again. But either way, this entire time, even though we lost a little bit of bullish momentum in the short term, we're still more bullish than bearish. We're still in this bullish trend. And so once again, in terms of the trend and momentum overall, especially on the larger timeframes, I'm still very bullish. It's just worth keeping in mind that during a bullish trend, we can see short-term breaks here and there. And if we're taking a look at the 8-hour time frame, obviously over the last 1 day, we have now successfully seen a breakout in the 8-hour Ethereum RSI above this descending line of resistance, which helps to invalidate that previous bearish divergence. And so as I said in my last video, we had just one small confirmation signal of one 8-hour candle close in the red, basically confirming a new bearish divergence, but that was quickly invalidated by a new green candle shortly after. And now, due to the fact that the RSI is breaking out above this descending line of resistance and also potentially breaking out above this previous high right here, of course, if this actually sets a new higher high in place in the 8-hour RSI, then that fully gets rid of any chance of a bearish divergence forming if there's higher highs in the RSI and higher highs in the price. But once again, either way, as I've been saying, despite what's happening here in the smaller timeframes in the shorter term, when we're looking at the larger timeframes in the larger trend at play, we're still very bullish. And if we're taking a quick look at the price of Solana on the 8-hour time frame, obviously over the last 1 day, along with the rest of the crypto market, Solana has also experienced a short-term pump to the upside. And so obviously right now with Solana breaking out back above this golden pocket, which was sitting in between around $105 to $107, I am completely out of that short position altogether that I entered right around here. And as I've been saying over the last 4 to 5 days or so, I've been saying that I've already been taking a lot of profits anyway out of that short position. I've already closed the majority of that position in some decent profits right around $99 to $100. And so once again, as I was saying, over the last 4 days or so, I've already closed the majority of that position in profits, and I only had a small amount of that position left open, which is now closed. So overall, that was still actually a profitable trade, even though we did not hit the full technical price target for this head and shoulders pattern. And so right now, this head and shoulders pattern is clearly invalidated, and this golden pocket at $105 to $107 should now act as a new support. And as for resistance, we need to pay attention to around $113 to $114 acting as resistance. And above that, we have more resistance at around $117 to $118. And if there's any altcoins you want me to cover here in these videos, make sure to comment down below this video your favorite altcoin. And if there's a lot of people commenting the same altcoin, I'll make sure to cover it here in these videos. And if you want to take these trades in the price of any crypto, like the trade that I took for Ethereum, which I shared here on the channel to maximize your profits in crypto, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action from long positions or short positions. And the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.